guys, welcome back to another episode of Balanced and Bougie. And you might notice that it is a little bit different today because I kicked Brooke off, and today I invited my friend Marlena. Say hi.
Hello.
As you guys know, we have been focused on friendship for the last couple episodes, especially, transitions in friendships and how friendships change through adulthood. And one thing I don't think we talk about enough is how friendships change through motherhood. And since neither Brooke or I have kids, I thought I'd invite someone who actually knows, i.e. my friend Mar.
That's me.
As we know, friendship changes throughout life, and life changes such as like marriage, children, job changes, all sorts of adjustments, and motherhood or fatherhood or just having a kid in general has to be one of the largest transitions you can go through in life. And it can be scary, exciting, it can be everything you've ever wanted or something you never expected. And that has an impact on not just like your day-to-day life, but the relationships you have probably with your spouse, your friends, your parents, everybody. And that is a transition that is not something to scoff at. So, Mara, if you don't mind, I have a few questions for you.
I will answer them.
I had to beg. No, I'm just kidding. So, how long have you known that you wanted kids?
So I've been one of those people who ever since they were, as soon as I could think, I knew like I want babies in my life. So when I was a kid, I always played with my baby dolls, and when I had friends over, we'd play house, and those were like my two favorite things to do. So I always knew that I loved babies, I loved kids. And I remember when I asked my mom, I was like 4 or 5 years old. It's one of those core memories that I remember. We were in the basement, she's doing laundry, and I was like, Mom, I need you to have another baby. When are you going to have another baby? And she was like, I remember just being so devastated because she told me that I was the last baby. We're not having any more. And it was a momentary, what? No, I need a little baby in my life. And then I immediately, because I'm such a problem solver, I was like, you know what? When I'm older, I will have my own baby. And so I will just have to wait for that. But that'll be okay because I'll have lots of babies when I'm older. So, and then that was just like, once I'm old enough, I will be a mom, and that'll be so great.
Yeah.
So, and that was always kind of an odd feeling, in grade school, you have what do you want to be when you grow up? And people would always say these really cool jobs, and some jobs did sound cool, but I was always like, I just want to be a mom. So for me, it's been very clear, and I know a lot of people struggle with the idea of, do I want to have kids or not?
Right.
For me, I've been lucky in that I've always known I've wanted kids.
So there was you didn't have to go through this internal battle of like,
Never.
Is this what I want? You just knew,
No.
I'm just going to decide when it's the right time.
Exactly. And that was honestly the biggest thing was I was lucky enough to find my person very early on, similar to Erica. Right in college, we got 2 boys who were desperate to lay our hands in marriage. Like, most people don't get engaged in college.
Yeah.
But our boys were like, we need to nail them down.
No, just to be so clear right now, like Mar and I, like, were friends before the engagements happened. Like, I wasn't engaged to Joey. I was dating Joey when we met, but I was not engaged, and you guys weren't even dating yet.
No.
So
I was dating somebody else at the time.
Yeah,
so.
It's not like we were like, oh, I'm going to find a friend who's
We're
also
both engaged
and young.
Like, no.
It just happened that way.
There was something in the air when apparently, like, I don't know, our pheromones, trapped the boys, like.
And they were both, 6 months in, Joey was like, oh, we're going to get married. And then 6 months in, he actually proposed to you. Joey took a year to propose to me, but you got 6 months.
Yeah, he was a little, honestly, he was a little too quick. But it all worked out. And now we have a wonderful son. But it's always been just a matter of time because we got married. And then I was like, it was in a very weird position to be like, I can have kids now. It's no longer a point of, if you have a kid, it's, oh shit, you just had it. Like, oh no. It's like a congratulations.
Yeah.
So that was a weird shift to be like, I can have a child now. And so when am I going to do that? And so it must have been, we were married for 2 years, I think, 3 years. I'm not actually sure, but it was a few years.
I think just 2.
Just 2?
Yeah. Because you haven't been married.
It was 2020.
You'll be
and then
4 years this year. February was 4 years, right?
Yes. Yeah. 4 years. So it was around 2 years.
Oh.
But yeah.
That was fast.
Nah. Honestly, it didn't feel like it.
That's because Sam is like, your husband, he knew what he wanted. He knew he wanted to get married. He knew he wanted the kids. And he was ready
for the kid, right away, too. So me holding off 2 years, and part of that was COVID. So COVID really puts a stop to everything. But yeah,
yeah, it is crazy. I think you could have had him earlier.
I know. Yeah, I could have had a little 4-year-old. I could have had 3 kids by now. Like,
that's exhausting.
I know. Exhausting to think about.
And you brought up like a really good point that like I personally struggle with, which is this idea that like getting pregnant now is positive. I almost feel like they kind of drilled it in too hard when we were younger, that like getting pregnant is bad, to the point where like for me, I think about I might choose to have kids one day, and like then I'd have to tell my parents, and I feel like
they're
gonna
weird
be mad.
Little sense of like guilt. Oh no!
Yeah.
Even though it's an exciting, wonderful thing, and you know that they're wanting that so badly for you to. Yeah, that's so true.
That's such an odd transition to have to like go through.
Right, because even if you logically know that of course it's a positive thing, and of course we're trying for it, the brain is not always working with the conscious, the subconscious. It's there, and yeah, you don't want to ingrain those things too hard with your young ones, because it'll carry in their brain for.
Yeah, they'll be like scared of it forever.
Yeah,
it is actually crazy how those things affect us.
Yeah.
On that note, how did you feel when you were, starting to tell your friends about being pregnant?
That was kind of hard a little bit. Like, part of it was I found out that I was pregnant right away. Like, the act of conception occurs. Whatever that magical thing is that makes someone have a baby. That happened, and I found out I was pregnant about a week and a half later.
Yeah.
Because modern pregnancy tests are just so good at detecting that early. And my body it was kind of one of those, like, I was feeling a little bit different, and I thought, man, what if I'm pregnant? And I took the test, and it was this moment of, and when you find out you're pregnant, there's kind of this, you don't want to tell until there's kind of these arbitrary marks of time. But because the rate of miscarriage is so high, the earlier you are, I think at that point it was technically like a 50% chance that it could end in miscarriage that early on. So there's this point of you don't want to go running around telling everybody, right?
Right. Because then
you'd have to follow up later, potentially, like, actually, I'm not pregnant anymore. We lost the baby. And,
and that is traumatic on its own to have to
so it's
share
like,
that
you gotta
story.
wait. But sitting on that, like, talking with friends, and you and our other friends were trying to plan a Vegas trip. And you were looking at dates that were the due date of this baby that they don't know about. And I'm just having to be like, I remember just being very non-committal to making any plans. And then, but so that was kind of hard. So I actually told people, like, I think you and Joey were the first friends to know. Yeah. Because you two came over. And I think, didn't I just, like, show you the ultrasound picture or something? Or
you handed me a bottle of wine.
I did. Yeah. That's right. And it had custom labels, which means that I had enough. It was, like, several weeks in because I had ordered these custom, like, wine labels that said, I think, like, baby and then our last name.
Yeah, it was so cute.
Yeah. But, yeah.
I feel like I almost forced your hand, not on purpose, but like we had maybe
totally
2 weeks before, 2 weeks before she told me, or it could have been, I have no idea, but I was like, oh, let's go to a hockey game in Milwaukee. And so Joey and I...
Oh, that's right, we did.
Yeah, we met you guys at a restaurant or something, and then we went to a hockey game, and no one drank at the hockey game, but we had originally planned to like
go
out to the bars. And I remember,
And
like...
we did go to a bar afterwards.
We did, but it was basically like a
soda.
sports bar.
Yes.
And I remember, though, that we both, like, both of us, and I don't know, part of me always wonders if this is, like, a touch divine, that I was like, I'm not feeling it, which is very much not how we were.
Right.
Like, when I knew that Mara and I were going to go to the bar, it was a very exciting experience.
And I remember being thankful that Erica was like, I'm just not really feeling going on. And I was like, yeah, me neither.
Because that would have been so hard for you to try to, like, navigate not drinking or canceling or whatever it was going to have to be. So then we didn't end up going out. But I remember walking away and being like, it's weird that we both didn't feel great today. And then I didn't really think anything of it, but when I went to your house for you to tell me, you were, like, acting a little bit antsy, and I was like, oh, I think I know.
Something's a brewing.
I didn't know before. Like, don't get me wrong, I didn't drive there knowing, but I did feel like when I got to your house and you were, like, acting a little bit different. It was good different, but I was like, something's up. And I had known that you wanted children, so that also colors this. This wasn't a surprise to me.
Yeah.
But it was very exciting. I think I cried, like, a little bit because I'm ridiculous. But yeah, you gave me the bottle of wine, and then you had the ultrasound. Because I was like, is this real? And then you had the picture.
Yeah. And I remember, like, telling Joey, I have bad news.
Oh, yeah.
You've lost a drinking buddy for the next 9 months.
That was so funny. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was kind of hard because it was hard to tell friends a little bit because I was the first in the friend group to have a baby. So there is this weird, a small part of me kind of felt bad because it was like, I'm going to have this baby. I'm going to go through this really crazy life change. I'm no longer going to be able to do a lot of the things that we do.
Right.
A lot of attention is going to come on me, and also I'm scared of the attention, but also, like, it just a lot of weird dynamics, and so a small part of me kind of felt bad to tell my friends that I was, like, pregnant.
Like, you felt like you were kind of shifting the, like, current balance that the friendships were on.
Yes, exactly. Like, I'm about to change everything.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I could totally imagine that being, you know, scary, like, are friends going to be reacting positively? And I think it was good that you kind of set the tone, like, that you wanted children.
Right. Like, everybody knew that it was kind of a matter of time.
Right. Especially if they'd met your husband, who was, like, at any given moment ready for you to be willing to have children.
Poor Sam.
I love him so much. I mean, I love how much he loves you and your children. And your children who aren't here yet.
The eventual ones that are going to be more to come because he's poor boy.
He's so ready.
He's so ready.
So when you got pregnant and you officially had told everybody, did you feel your friendships shift?
Surprisingly, no. And I think the biggest one was probably, like, some friends I had made through kickboxing, and it was like 3 girls, and they were all single girls, and we kickboxed together, and it's like, I'm gonna have a baby, and I'm not gonna be able to kickbox anymore. So, and the other thing we like to do, we would occasionally, like, go out for drinks together. Not doing that either. So that was probably, like, one of the biggest shifts, but even then they were all very supportive and happy for me, of course. But, like, the other big, honestly, like, and again, to hype up Erica as this fantastic, wonderful friend, but Erica, as well as the other girls in our group, just viewed it as such an exciting thing and were so proactive towards me. I think that was a big thing because when you are pregnant, it's hard to take the lead in being like, but we're going to do this and I need this. And to have your friends be so proactive and say, how about we do this? Or do you need me to help you with this? And it's okay. We're going to do this. It's okay. And I'm speaking very vaguely. But yeah, so in that way, I didn't feel the massive friendship transition that people often do. And just because it was seen as such a happy, wonderful thing. I think that was the big thing. Like, you and the others were so excited for, like, little baby. And we made a fun nickname for him, which really made it even more real and exciting. So even then points where I was feeling very low, they were always high and happy. And I never felt that really tough friendship transition, but I know a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I remember when you got pregnant, I was very worried that I would make you feel that. Like, I was really scared that getting pregnant would make you feel like other from us because you were entering this transition first, right? And so I do remember, like, and I'm glad to hear that you did feel like, you know, we cared, because the chain, you know, you feel like, is this person leaving me behind? Like, as you go off to have children, like, are we still gonna be us? And I actually feel like speaking for me, like, your pregnancy almost continued make us closer, because we had to continually find, like, new ways that we were friends.
Yes.
Not that our friendship was just going out, but, like,
right. Definitely not. But
you were not feeling well for parts of that, and we did a lot of, like, just
very
hanging
low
out.
key. Yes. And also me hanging out when I wasn't mentally at my best or physically at my best. Whereas in the past, I'd probably just, you know, wouldn't hang out that day.
Right.
But, and just, not always having activities to do, or, you know, having your conversation really revolve around sucky pregnancy things. Like, you know, things like that. The friendship evolved with the changing everything else.
It definitely did.
Yeah.
And I feel like part of that comes from, like, both of us were, and not just us, your other friends as well. Like, everyone was very intentional on making sure that the friendship was, like, held as something important, and, like, that we were going to prioritize it.
Yeah.
And I think when I see other moms, unfortunately, like, have some of those friendships have a strain, it comes from, like, the priority of maintaining that friendship falling behind all of the other things. And it's no one's fault per se, but it's definitely, I think, something when you hear your friend is having a baby, or when you yourself are having a baby, you continue to remember, like, this relationship is important to me, so I'm going to put this action in place to keep that. You have to put
effort into it. Because if you just treat it as the way things always were, little things will pop up, like, you can't do this activity because, sure, the other person can't drink, but also maybe they can't do these physical activities you used to do together. Or maybe your pregnant friend is now mentally just they're acting different because they're cranky, or they have morning sickness or whatever. And if you treat the friendship as you always did, issues are going to arise.
Yeah.
And you can feel resentment, or one of you or both of you will feel like the other friend isn't putting in as much effort, or so just like little things like that. You have to put the effort and be conscious of how things are going to change.
Yeah.
And people don't like change, especially when things are already good. So.
Yeah, that is always tough when people are not ready for that change, but I'm glad to see that a lot of your friends were, you know, like I'm privileged to have met many people through MAR, and they are a really lovely group of people who were and still are very hype about your son.
I'm really lucky that, like, all my friends are, even some of them who was like, I don't even know if you like kids really, but they all love my son. So he's very cute.
He is. It's easy. He could be the Gerber baby. Yeah. I mean, he's a big boy now.
I did enter him in the Gerber baby photo competition, and I never heard back, so I don't think he won.
I think it's a scam. He should have.
Clearly, it's a faulty. He should have won.
So we've touched on it a bit, but just to, like, make sure that, you know, everything that could have been discussed is discussed. Like, what could friends do to make you feel supported during that transitional period?
It's a big question, because I do think, like, obviously everybody's different.
Yeah.
Some people might not like. Some people might like if the other person is just showing up and doing all these things. Other people might not like the attention. I know for me it was just really helpful to know that people were thinking about me, but not pressuring me to do things.
Yeah.
So especially in the beginning, because I had just morning sickness, so much morning sickness, and it was awful. And like some days would get a little better, and then the next day would be back to horrible. And so it was really hard to make plans in the beginning because I would feel like I would just have to force myself to go, and I'm not going to be the best version of myself. And I feel bad for like canceling, but so there was almost like a pressure if friends wanted to do something, and it's like, but also you don't want to feel forgotten because I spent a lot of time just laying at home feeling miserable, and then nobody's talking to me. So that would be really hard. So for me, it was just like the little bits of, hey, I hope you're doing well. I'm thinking about you. That was like the best because I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But they're thinking about me, and I feel loved and supported as I'm vomiting.
Yeah. That was a really rough first trimester.
Yeah. And it's the biggest reason why I'm okay with waiting for baby number 2.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I definitely feel like you got, like, it was like you became yourself again, like halfway through the second trimester. It was like, I saw you so much more at the end of your pregnancy than I did the beginning. You really did.
Even though we, like, lived farther away, too. So, yeah.
See, because Mar made the decision to move houses while pregnant.
Oh, yeah, I moved halfway through pregnancy. Still remember, I was 2 weeks before I did so much moving when I was pregnant, which, like, 2 weeks before he was born, we moved a couch, and I just remember it was just Sam and me, 9 months pregnant, like, moving this massive couch, moving it onto the U-Haul, and, like, taking it home, and then moving it into the house, and we had to take off the door.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was totally random, but, like, yeah, I did a lot of moving while I was pregnant, and looking back, I'm, like, kind of proud. I was lifting and doing things, but also they say, like, don't lift that heavy of things when you're pregnant.
You were, like, hardcore nesting. You were preparing for him to be
That's
here.
exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was hardcore. It was really nesting. I was like, I need this couch set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be better the second time through.
I really hope so.
Your body will know not to get as sick.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So, looking towards kind of after pregnancy and once you had, a newborn or a baby in your house, which life changes yet again. I remember that at some point you started kind of joining some mom groups. Has it been beneficial to kind of seek out mom friends?
Yeah, so that was really like a very interesting experience because it was kind of like my son was a newborn, and then it was the holidays. And then the holidays were over, and it's also New Year's resolution. It's cold, I'm stuck in the house. All the holidays are over with. And I felt this very big spur of, I'm going to go out and meet other moms. And I found this mom group, which is very, very unique and kind of sorority-esque, and which kind of sounds really negative. But it's, like, I go to their website, and the giant cover photo is just, like, all these women with the wavy, long, blonde hair, and they're all posing, smiling, and so and they're all very young, so it was not what I typically thought of with a mom group, but it started with this one mom who was a young mom and felt alone and just tried to make social media connections, and she made this overarching group that has all types of meetups, from small ones at coffee shops and book clubs to major events at places, and you can buy tickets for. So I really threw myself completely in. I was like, I joined the group, I joined the book club, and it was like, we're meeting in a week, and I tried to read the whole book in a week. I didn't quite get there, but and then there was a ticketed event I went to, and I went to like coffee meetups, and I just really threw myself in. And at first it was very invigorating, and also because I didn't have any mom friends, and so it was very cool to meet all these other women with like 4-month-old, year-old, 2-year-old babies. And at first it was really invigorating, and I met a lot of women. But then you kind of start to notice trends or things you start to realize you don't like.
Okay.
So, I feel bad to like say some of them, but I think, so some things are like, you're meeting a lot of other women who recently had babies. So everybody is like, great, we all have this shared experience. Let's all share everything, and let's share the negative to also our judgments to, and some of it are things that I would be a lot more tact with, or maybe not share to strangers. People are just like telling it, and that became a little off-putting for me. And just, I of course have my judgments. We all do, right? But I would definitely hold on to those judgments when I'm first meeting people, and some people wouldn't, and then some things are like, oh, that's actually something I would do.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Almost like they're trying to kind of get everyone in the group to agree.
Yeah.
Or they're just assuming that you would agree because you're in this group of people.
Yes, exactly. And then too, it felt bad, but it got to the point where I was like, I cannot hear another traumatic birth story.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and I'm someone who, when other people are sharing that thing, I just kind of shut down, even if similar things did happen to me with my own. It's like, I don't get any positives from getting into that.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was just hearing too much, and it got kind of negative for me. Not to say that like you shouldn't be able to share that, of course not. But again, it's kind of like when you're first meeting someone, and it's like, I don't really want to hash into this right now. I want to know what kind of, I don't know, flavor coffee you like. And
Right. Yeah. You're like,
I want to know about your family and your kids' names and things like that.
But it's almost like continually pulling you into that like negative headspace.
Yes.
It's not that you couldn't have that conversation with somebody, but it's like, why is this happening in the first 5 minutes of knowing you?
There's no way that I could say, please don't tell me about that. Because you totally could, and honestly, like maybe that's a totally valid thing to do, but also you have just shut off that person from like, I know if I were sharing something like that to another mom and they told me like, please stop talking about that, I would be like, all right, I'm going to go die in a hole now, and it would just be horrible.
Yeah.
So I started to notice like the type of interactions that I was getting wasn't always fruitful for me, and also I was getting to the point where it was kind of like you'd have a small conversation with another mom and then, oh, let's exchange numbers and whatever. Yeah. It got to the point where I was meeting too many moms. I was like, I can't hang out with all of you, and also I don't want to hang out with all of you.
Right.
And I know that all of you don't want to hang out with me. So luckily I was able to, I've made 2 curated friendships from that, and that is like the perfect amount.
Yeah.
And they both are very different women and different lifestyles, but I very much enjoy both of them, and I like them aside from them being moms. Because that's the big thing, is like you meet mom friends and you kind of just assume like you're both moms, so you both will be friends, but it's I would honestly say it's twice as hard to have a good friendship as a mom. Okay. Because you have to like each other as a person, but also you have to get along parenting wise. Because if your parenting style is, you can have different parenting styles, but if you're a very judgmental of a certain type of parenting style, and like, that will just add tension and conflict. Yeah. And so I was very mindful of just, and I don't know, maybe that, I hope that doesn't make me sound judgy, that, they parent their child a certain way, that means I can't. It's more the opposite. I don't want them to be judgmental of me doing things a certain way. So,
from what I know about like you and your parenting style, I almost think of it as it's a similar environment or situation to like, I have had people feel uncomfortable with the ways that I take care of myself. Like, I prioritize the way I eat. Like, I'm very specific in what kind of foods I eat and make sure that I'm eating this variety and it's meeting these, nutritional levels, and I think it's super important. And a lot of people feel that as an attack on them, even when it has nothing to do with them. And I wonder if that's something you experienced, because you've really prioritized, health things for your son, especially when it came to his food and screen time and things. I feel like maybe other parents almost felt like they almost needed to go on the counterattack to make it feel like they were judging you for trying too hard or whatever.
Exactly. And I've always considered myself, like, I like to call myself, like, semi-crunchy. And I'm sure I could make myself a cute little, what is something that is kind of crunchy?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't, like, whatever adjective or food that would be just, like, a little...
Just a touch of crunchy.
Right. Because I'm not full on, like, he can't watch TV and he can only eat this ultra-organic thing. Like, no.
Right.
But I was mindful that as soon as he was learning how to chew, he wasn't eating cookies and Cheetos.
Right.
And I held off added sugar until he was a year, and I try to make sure his diet is balanced. And sometimes, if it always comes up with the people asking, can he have this?
Right.
And I'll say, oh, actually, I'd prefer if you didn't. And instead of that just being the end of the interaction, it's like, well, why not? Oh, it's not going to hurt him. Like, just have a little bit. Come here, have some. Oh, mommy doesn't want you to have it. And it's like, great, you've just turned this entire interaction into something really awful.
Right. No, I've definitely seen that.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched that exact scenario take place. And I think, unfortunately, it comes from, they're trying to be nice by offering something, which is totally great. But then instead of being able to, like, hear I'm not doing that for my son, somehow that translates to people as you're doing the wrong thing and a criticism of them. That is not at all what your intention is or what you're doing, but there's like a defensiveness that I think we all naturally have, and that is a way that it really comes out.
Exactly. So, yeah, just a touch crunchy.
Just a touch crunchy.
Yeah.
But then when you have found those two friends, and I believe you have more friends now who've become moms since you've had your son.
Yeah.
And that's like a different kind of friendship, right? And that has been positive to be able to talk to them about motherhood and like things that just like your friends who haven't had that transition in life yet really can't relate to as much.
Yeah. That's been, I've really had to check myself too, because you're watching a friend go through all these things that you went through, and seeing, like, my one friend in particular, which I really appreciate, whenever she has the really extreme concerns or worries, she'll come to me because she knows that I'll give, like, the level-headed, agreeable response. But sometimes she'll come to me and say these things, and a little part of me wants to say, like, just wait until, like, blah, 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 or, like, yeah, that's not going to last because this is going to happen later on. But I stop myself because I'm like, one, she is feeling really happy and great in this spot, and she will find that out eventually on her own. But also, it might not happen for her. So just because my experience happened doesn't automatically mean that it's going to be the same for this other kid. But it is kind of funny when you hear a lot of, I will never do this to my kid.
Yeah.
Or my kid will never. And I was that way about a few things. And my son, we did those things. Like, I was very much like, we will never bed share, ever. We've bed shared. Like, there was a small period of time where, like, it was just the way that he would sleep. And so I'd bring him onto bed at 5 a.m. and we'd sleep that way. So little things like that. And then to see my friends who have now have little babies, they're going through the same thing. They would, when they were pregnant, and they do the research and they text me things. Oh, I can't believe parents do that. I would never do that. And then I'm like, and then later on, like, oh, we do that, or my kid does that, and it's like, you never know until you're in the position. So
like life isn't black and white, right? And it's those things where you do the best you can with the information you have, but like reality hits hard, right?
Yeah.
Babies. They really push you to...
It's a lot.
Yeah, they really, really want to test you.
Every day.
So when you're thinking of spending time with your friends, whether they're mom friends or, single friends or whatever variation you have, do you spend time like with your son with your friends, or does he go to like a sitter? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, it was definitely easier when he was a itty bitty baby.
Yeah.
He was so much more docile then, and it was very easy to meet up at a coffee shop, and he's just cutely laying there in the little stroller, and I miss those days sometimes because now he's a toddler, and it's a lot harder to do that because you just have to watch them. You can't just let them do their own thing unless you set up a TV for them, which you don't want to rely on all the time. So I've been very conscious of, like, sometimes we're hanging out with the kid, and then that activity will be a little bit more fitting for that, but definitely a lot of it is, and I'll push for it too, like, I would rather that he is not there. And then it all comes down to your support system, right? So I'm very lucky that I have such a good support system, and most of it is not my own doing. Like, I have a fantastic mom who we are just so lucky to live very close to, and she loves my son, so she is very helpful with that. And luckily I have fantastic friends who are also willing to watch him, although usually it's like I'm hanging out with the friends, so they offered a babysit, and I'm like, well, I want to hang out with you, and that's when I need the sit. So, but yeah, I've been very lucky to have, like, that I don't have to rely on hiring someone. But I will say, a lot of moms I know are very scared to get sitters. I mean, especially when they're young, it's like, my baby's 6 months, leaving them with a stranger. Like, I totally get that. But, like, the hardest part is the first time. And I would say now with, like, the internet, it's scarier to get people from online, but I would say it's easier now more than ever. Yeah. And it's so easy to find the people who are like, I've taken this course, and here's my clean driving record, and they're being forthcoming and giving it all to you, and here's all my experience, and here's references. It's like, that is a trustworthy person, and you can trust them for those few hours that you're out. Yeah. Of course, it is an expense. They are pricey, so that is the big hindrance there. But, like, don't be scared of sitters, let people watch your kids. You don't need to be tied to them forever. Like, you got to have your alone time. You need the time away. Like, that's just so important.
I feel like, obviously I don't have my own kid, but I also feel like it's good for them too, right? Like, your child learns, like, you will always come back for them, and then they get these cool new experiences, with somebody else. But I recognize that is a privilege, and also it is a big hurdle to overcome.
A lot of people are not in the position to be able to hire a sitter or have people come over, and that's, honestly, I just feel for them. Like, that would really, really suck. I can't imagine just constantly being stuck around all the time. So I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm already stuck around him all the time. Right. But, the other, I would say, like, your neighbors are such a resource, and I feel like our generation we're naturally more closed off when it comes to neighbors. I've only just started talking with my neighbors more, and it happened like a couple months ago. I was walking out, and there was a mom with 2 kids, one same age and one a year or two older, and she's very extroverted. So she immediately was like, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to tell you everything about my family. We're going to be friends. You can come over anytime and have coffee, just hang out. Like, it was a little overwhelming for me, honestly, a little bit. But she was also a wealth of knowledge, because she's like 5 houses down, and she's like, do you know this person? Do you know, she loves kids, and she watches my son all the time. So if you ever need you should just ask her. Oh, wow. And she wants to be around kids, and it's this, like, nice, I say grandma, but she's not, like, super old, right? Like, middle-aged. And her, kids are all out of the house and stuff. So you never know what's even in your own neighborhood. And then another old lady, I guess, down the street also likes to babysit the kids. And obviously there's some like vetting there and stuff.
Yeah,
and
don't
you need
just
to
drop
make
your
sure
kid
they're
off.
physically able and that things are safe. But, you know, if it's, I want to go out for a few hours, you never know what's in the neighborhood. And talking to strangers is scary, I get it. But, like, you know, neighbors they're all, you never know the people around you. And there's so many just living their own lives.
I mean, that's such a testament to how important it is for us to, like, be building our communities. Like, you're right, we've become so closed off, and I think about when I was a kid, I hung out with my neighbors at my neighbors' houses all the time. My mom watched my neighbors, they watched me.
Right.
My husband was telling us this story the other day. Do you remember this? Where he was like, one day I was sick, and both my parents had to work, and apparently his parents' neighbors just, like, came over every once in a while to, like, make sure he was still, like, alive. He was, like, 15, so he was fine. But to make sure that he was, like, not too sick, and then they would go back home. And, like, how fortunate was it that they didn't have to take off because somebody was close by able to look in on their son. And I just think that that's an invaluable asset to be able to have your community be close to.
Right, because I know, like, a lot of people live in their house, and especially in apartments, and they're like, I've never seen my neighbors come out of their house. And I know at my one apartment before this house, I could have been the only person on that floor because the walls were really soundproofed, which is great. And for whatever reason, people, like, did not leave their... It was also like, COVID. So, people were not leaving and as much, and people were working from home. But I probably saw the year and a half that I lived there, people in my hallway getting into their apartment maybe, like, a dozen times. So it really felt like I'm on this ghost floor.
You're like an island.
Like, I don't know my neighbors. I don't even know if I have neighbors.
Yeah.
Like, so
that's so true. I remember seeing this one guy one time moving a TV, and every time that I ever visited you, I'd see him once.
I remember that.
Yeah, because your cat got out.
Right. Yeah. And I think he was kind of cute or something.
I'm sure
too.
he was. Yeah.
We're
If you're
married.
listening. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think that, like, seeking out people who are around you, and also remembering that, like, I want to watch her son, right? Like, if you're going somewhere, Mar, and I'm not going there, which, like she said, is also the problem that we're going together. Like, I love the opportunity to spend that time with him. Like, actually, right now, Mar and my husband go to kickboxing together, and then Mar's husband gets some time to work on his small business, and then I hang out with her son for an hour, and it is one of my favorite times of the week, especially because I think he's starting to expect it. Like, he's like, he knows I'm coming, or he sees me.
Because one time she didn't come, and it was just Joey, and the door opened, and he just starts crying.
I mean, so sad that he was sad, but it warms my heart to know that he knows I'm coming, or, like, he associates, like, that's a time, and he knows that we're just gonna play, right? So,
it's fun time.
You know, it's great to also keep in mind that, like, people want to watch your... Obviously not every day. Like, you can't leave your kid with someone all the time every day, but when you're in that position, realize people love you, they love your children, like, they want to spend that time with them. It's an invaluable resource.
Yeah. That has been one that's really hard to wrap my head around, because I always feel like I'm putting somebody out if they are watching my child, even if it's for, like, a short amount of time. Like, I must, so.
Which is so funny because, like, myself and a couple other one of our friends in our group, like, I know that we're always like, if you want to go anywhere, you know, like, it would feel like a reward. It would feel like you're telling me I'm good if you let me watch your son. So it's so funny how on different sides of that issue. I really got to
plan a date night for
you do.
Next week.
You need to go. Once girl Sam is home, so that she can come too.
Right. Yes.
So now you have been on this side of parenting for over a year, which is an insane thought, right?
Almost 2 years.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you feel that you have, like, established your new normal? Like,
yeah, I know that's something that women really often struggle with. And one thing so I'm going to backtrack something that was really really crazy that the internet does, the algorithm.
Yeah.
When I first got pregnant and I started Googling things about pregnancy and my early symptoms, and then I'd go to TikTok, Instagram, things, my feed would have things related to early pregnancy.
Oh.
Like, they got that I Googled that. I never searched on Instagram for these things.
Right.
It was like I Googled it, and then it's popping up on social media. Or potentially it was listening because I was talking about symptoms. And then didn't even matter if I didn't talk about it or didn't search things, because it knew that I was that early pregnancy at that point. When I was in my second trimester, I saw things related to second trimester.
Oh,
when I
okay.
was third trimester, the social media followed me through like that journey. What was my point to this? What was the question again? Oh, being normal. So one thing was, as I was, one common theme that I saw during pregnancy was the transition and how a lot of women felt like they were losing their sense of self.
Okay.
Because they were pregnant, or when they have the baby, because now they're a mother and there's all these expectations, responsibilities, and because you can't do the things you could do before.
Right.
And all the hormone stuff, right? So I was fully expecting this really tough transition once the baby was here. Especially because pregnancy was so hard. I just assumed everything else was going to be hard too. But I would say that I went through a major change when I was pregnant versus when I had the baby. Because before I got pregnant, I was about to start a new job that I was really excited for. I was in the best physical shape of my life.
Yeah.
And I was doing kickboxing a lot. I was also doing a lot of yoga. So I was just very fit. My husband just came home from his military long trip. So it was like, we're starting our normal life back together. And I just felt and I had just written a book. So I was very confident and happy with myself, and I felt very full. And that was a big reason why I felt like it is time for me to have a baby now, because I am so happy and content with myself. Then I got pregnant, and every single thing about me that made me confident and full went away, because I couldn't work out.
Yeah.
And I saw myself, not even that I couldn't do the workouts that I enjoyed. I saw my body and felt my body lose muscle. I gained fat, and obviously then I get bigger with pregnancy. So that was really hard. I wasn't able to start the new job because it was like my very first day, and I quit because I was just vomiting everywhere, and it was like, I can't learn a new job that requires me to be on my feet all day and be vomiting. So like I had to quit that. So I felt like I don't have a purpose there because I'm not bettering myself, and I'm not working. And, little things like I loved to cook, and I kept a clean apartment. Now I'm not really doing that, and my husband is trying to cook, and he's terrible. So it was just everything that made me, and I know that doesn't make me who I am, but all the things that really gave me purpose and fullness went away. And I did go through a pretty dark time, like I would say my second or third month of pregnancy was just really mentally hard. And every day I was like, I know that it's going to end, but if I didn't know that it was going to end, I don't know how I would keep going, because this is just horrible. But then things slowly got better. And as things slowly got better and the prospect of the baby became more real, that helped. And then when the baby was born, just all the physical ailments that did continue with me through pregnancy just immediately went away. And it was just the most wonderful thing ever. And then the baby was so cute. So for me, that transition, it was like relief.
Yeah, wow.
And then I slowly added the things back that made my life so great and full. And so for me, it was very easy to establish that new normal because pregnancy had ripped it away.
Yeah.
So I feel great now. Honestly, now it's when I think about baby number 2 that I get really worried.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, that really resonates with me because it's obviously I have not had a baby, right? But like hearing you talk about how you like kind of lost those things that made you feel like you and gave you that confidence. It's exactly how I felt when I got my brain injury. And like the rush, the thrill of like gaining some of those things back, it is huge. And then you feel like yourself. And it is such a sad thing that it's like you still have value when you don't have those things that are important to you. Like working out, I know for both of us is incredibly important and like such a stress reliever and like a confidence builder. Losing that was very harder than it sounds like it should be.
Right.
And so it's very interesting to hear, like you were able to come through and then it was like you hit that newborn stage and you're sleep deprived, but you're like, oh, but it's so much better.
It's so much better. Exactly.
Baby number 2 won't be as bad. They promised
If we
me.
say it enough, it'll be true. Erica promised me. I'm going to be throwing up and be like...
Yeah, just start
Erica,
swearing at me, texting me, like, you promised. I don't know. I'll buy you a lot of those, like, lollipop things or whatever.
I did eat a lot of those.
Yeah.
I don't know if they weren't like super helpful, but they weren't hurtful. Harmful.
Maybe they gave you something to like
give a little
focus on.
Yeah, and it was one thing that would stay down. Like it tasted okay enough.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you remember when you were like 6 months pregnant and I was like, "Hey, we should go to Disney World"? What a choice.
But you know what? That was actually like thinking back to friendships. I would say Erica was such a good friend during pregnancy that if it were another person and they're like, "Come on, let's go to Florida and let's go and walk around Disney World all day and it's going to be really hot and like, let's do that." I would probably be like, "No."
That sounds awful.
But it was kind of like all through pregnancy, Erica had met me where I was at and was so great. And even leading up to the trip, most of me didn't really want to go. I was like worried about it.
Yeah.
I was really worried how I was going to sleep because I had a hernia that made sleeping very, very difficult. I had to like sleep upright and all this stuff. And it was like, I'm going to be in a different place and a plane ride. And am I going to be able to handle walking around all of Disneyland? But I forced myself to go and I was like, you know what? No. There's been a fantastic friend. This will be fun. We will make it fun, and I know that she will do what's necessary to accommodate me. She will not push me to do anything that I wouldn't want to do. So, but then I went and I pushed myself, and it ended up being a fantastic time.
Yeah.
And I actually did sleep okay, and I had
well as
so
you
much
could.
fun. And now I have to go back to Disney. Because it ignited like a little, like, this is what everybody talks about. Because it was my first time going.
Yeah, it was very special. And it was cool to be able to, because like Mara and I spent a lot of her pregnancy being like, he's with us. Like, we're at this event and he's here too.
Exactly.
So it was, I just remember I remember going on like the Winnie the Pooh ride, which fun fact, there are many rides you can ride pregnant. We looked it up.
We did. We did our research.
And it was cute because it was extra special because I think, was it your baby shower had been Winnie the Pooh themed?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Yeah.
And his room is Winnie the Pooh themed.
Yeah, so it was cool to kind of like
that was like our
circle.
first.
And I will say, we didn't buy tickets till you got to Florida for Disney, just in case you wanted to back out.
Yeah,
so
accommodating.
Yeah, well, also I think that we were mostly just like, oh, it'll be like a baby moon because you can go to Florida, right? And then we were like, if you feel okay. Disney, because it was crazy to me that you'd never gone. I was like, this needs to be rectified immediately. So
I did, and it was great, and it was hot too.
It was
like
hot,
90 degrees, and we walked and we went like first thing in the morning, and we stayed for the fireworks.
Sure did. It was good. She was impressive. I mean, it was. I had a great time, but I wasn't pregnant. But Mara did a great. It was fun. I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did. And I look back at those pictures of like all of us on the beach and I'm like, how cute.
Yeah. In my maternity swimsuit.
Oh gosh, yeah. But you were so cute pregnant. Maybe you didn't feel it maybe, but you were.
Yeah. I started to feel it once the bump got like semi-big, and I could, some outfits, I was like, this is kind of fun. Like,
when you were like obviously pregnant, you knew other people knew you were pregnant.
Right. The worst is when you're like kind of pregnant, and then you just kind of look like not your best. It's like, yeah. So
you're not glowing anymore. You're not like,
you're still vomiting.
Yeah.
And like the bump is kind of there, but you just feel lethargic.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I'm moving
great.
slow. It's awful. Oh man.
Yeah.
You were cute. You were cute. Even if you don't feel like it. All right. So now you've got an almost 2-year-old. How do you find time to fit your friendships into your life with such a busy toddler?
Gotta keep a calendar. Yeah. I made sure my calendar was cute. I did like the Shutterfly and all the photos and everything. But man, you really have to keep a calendar. And be very mindful. Like, I'm very mindful of spacing out what I'm doing. But also, you have to put yourself out there. Like, you have to, it is so easy to just hole up and live your life, I think, for anybody, but especially when you have a kid.
Right.
So being mindful of, I'm not doing anything this day, but this day I'm going out with this person, or this person is coming over. And I mean, I hope that I have to assume, but I hope that a lot of my friends who I don't see for very large spanses of amount of at a time, that, you know, it's just, life is very busy with a baby and, you know, a husband who works a lot. And if you have your own hobbies, because everybody should have hobbies, but especially like moms shouldn't lose their hobbies. Like you really should keep those. So I am always like my phone calendar and making sure everything on my physical calendar is like, and I'm very mindful of, okay, today's a nothing day, and tomorrow is I'm doing these errands, and then this day I'm going to hang out with this person. So but I've always been a type A planner. I imagine that I can't speak for people who are more go with the flow and want to, because it's hard to be, I don't know. But at the same time, you have to go with the flow with a toddler, because if he suddenly gets sick, all your plans
are gone.
So, yeah.
I mean, I think that's like a good message for everybody too, though, is like, you know, when you have plans, like this week for me, it was like I had plans after my husband got home from work every single day. And I was like, oh my gosh, that week's going to be exhausting. And like almost to the point where you're like, I don't even want to do that anymore. But once you're doing it, it's enjoyable. And I think it's important to make sure, like, in all these phases in life, that you're kind of remembering to push yourself to make sure you're not secluding. Because it is so much easier, especially when you're struggling, to be like, well, I'm just not going to go do anything because I'm too tired or I'm too stressed or whatever. And while I think it is essential to plan those rest days, and like you shouldn't be doing something after work every day, all week, every week, that's exhausting. To make sure that you're still putting that time and effort into seeing your friends and doing the things that make you happy, I think has a really positive impact on your mental health.
Exactly. An object at rest stays at rest. So you need to not always be at rest, because you'll be stuck there. You'll be stuck there.
Yeah.
Right.
You've got to keep that momentum somehow, even when it feels like it would be nicer just to take a nap. Because if you're a mom, you're probably still not taking a nap when you're home.
Right. Sadly. Sleep when the baby sleeps.
Yeah. Best of luck with that.
I will say that's actually easier now that he's a toddler, because he's down to one nap. And so, and very often it's a fat nap. So I have actually recently been able to, like, he's going down for his nap. I can actually lay down for 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I've had a few naps now. So,
that's amazing. You've earned that, especially when he's like, I'm going to wake up at 3 a.m.
Yes,
and sleep till 6, or wake up till 6.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just, he was acting like he wasn't even tired either. We did all the things to like make him go back to sleep. And then we just brought him in bed with us, and he's just like laying there going, and like smacking me in the head and like rolling around and playing with the curtain. And it's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
He was just happy to be there.
He was just, that's exactly it. And, you know, he'd turn to my husband and be like, Dada, and then roll over and mama, mama. And I'd be like so tired, but I'm like, this is also really adorable and really funny.
It's so good. You are really great with that though, because like Mara is always like reframing like a stressful situation with her son and being like, but man, is he cute? Or like, look how he may be like really frustrated, but like what a great, you know, expression of his emotion that he's processing. And I'm like, I'm so impressed with you.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's impossible to do all the time, but it's a good...
You know, that's why they make them cute, and that's why they make moms think that they're even cuter, because otherwise they would have chucked the baby off a bridge, you know?
Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
That's so true. I believe
like,
that
they
firmly.
need that primal, which is funny. I've actually, so my baby is objectively, like, very cute.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, Erica would agree, like, if I weren't here.
Mm-hmm.
But I would see photos of him, like, when he was a certain age, especially when he was really young, I would take photos and I would think, oh my gosh, you are just the most precious little baby ever. I look at your face and there's nothing that's ever been cuter. And when I would take the photo and the way the lighting would capture it, it almost, it looked like how somebody else would view, if that makes sense. It was kind of like the pure... my baby likeness was gone, but it still looked just like him.
Right.
And I would look at him and be like, I mean, he is kind of cute, but he's not that cute. Like, and it would be so weird because it was like, it looks exactly the same, but it looks just different enough that I can see what my unbiased view would look
be
like.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's how he looks to other people. He is still cute, but he's not like the holy grail epitome of, and it was mainly just like those photos too. I do think that objectively is like top 5% cuteness for babies,
especially because like he got this hair and he's got like some very fair hair, right?
And he's always had a lot of hair,
like always. Like he was born with, which is crazy. He was born with dark hair, wasn't he?
Very
like,
dark monkey hair.
Yeah, and it like stuck up.
Yeah, which was very cute. But now it's like very full but fair and fine, and it's got like a reddish tint in the sun.
And sometimes when Mar chooses to love me, she puts his hair up in what is called a sprout in our group.
It's the cutest! I would put his hair in a sprout every day. You bundle up the hair and you make a ponytail right at the very top of the head.
Yes.
And I did that as soon as his hair was long enough, and I would get so much flack from my family because sprouts are for girls and he's a little boy. And I'm like, man buns are very socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And do you know how many big beefy men have like the long flowing hair? Like Jason Momoa.
Right.
Very, very man. Jesus
man, Christ.
Long hair. Like, so I don't know why it's wrong when my adorable baby has the...
There is nothing on this earth cuter than when he is like toddling towards you with his little sprout moving with his... It almost hurts.
Oh, we
like
have to
how
put his
cute
hair
it
in a
is.
sprout when he wakes up.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We had to record this while he was sleeping because he is fully toddler now.
Yes, which means that he would be babbling. He would be making more noise than I was during this entire.
And then he would get really sad at us for not focusing on him.
Yeah, he needs the attention.
You know, it's easy to focus on him, but this conversation would be hard to have focused on him, and then he would feel disappointment in us.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Mara, that is all the questions that I had today. Is there anything else that you feel is important for the audience to know about this friendship, motherhood, transitional time?
It's like the interview. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. Do you want to ask me anything about my experience in not motherhood?
No, how did you feel like with the transition of, you asked me how I felt, and especially because you had another close friend also become a mom shortly after I did. How was that for you?
So, I was very nervous when you got pregnant. I knew you were going to get pregnant. I knew it was coming, and I was really, really scared, actually. I was very excited, but mostly my first reaction was like, oh my gosh, I was really worried that our friendship could be impacted. And I remember thinking, like, I have seen all these TikToks and seen all these things online where moms talk about, like, they don't have any friends. And I wondered how much of that is their friends leave them behind, or how much is it that they just don't like hanging out with people who aren't parents anymore. So I think, a little bit of fear was good, because it made sure that I was like, I will do anything to keep us friends. And that's truly how it felt, which maybe was a bit of an overreaction to be like, oh gosh, I have to make sure. But, so my initial reaction was like, what if Mara doesn't like me anymore when she's a mom? Which is kind of irrational and silly when I think about it, but it was, because you were my first friend to have a kid. But thanks for being the sacrifice, because it made it much easier when my next friend started having kids, because I was like, oh, I know we can make this work.
Yeah.
But as soon as I was done being scared, which was maybe like the first 2 weeks, we started looking towards like, here are all these things we're gonna do with the baby. And we started like making all these like long-term plans, and like being like, when he's getting married at his wedding, we'll play this song, just like, because I'm assuming I'm gonna be in his life forever.
Right.
He has no
Which
choice.
has been great, and great to visualize. And those little things, I think, for you it might have just been like fun things to kind of say, but for me, when I was pregnant, they were so meaningful.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Because just like, so to imagine that, because already to view him growing up is just this fantastical thing, but also you do kind of feel like your friendships are in jeopardy, or how are things going to change, and I'll have all these kids and I'll move somewhere, and you think of the worst scenarios with what will happen to your friendships, or at least I know I do.
Yeah.
So when you're saying things like that, to view all of us still together with the kid, it was just really, really important.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I meant those things, right? And like I think we mentioned earlier, I definitely think it's so funny, because as life goes on, I know like when we both got married, we're like, we are much better friends now that we're both married, and like we're out of college, we were good friends. Then we became even better friends after college, and now I feel like even like now having it's like it unlocks a different kind of friendship.
Right. It's always deepening.
Yeah.
Always deepening.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because I get to see a whole new facet, like, of you, and I admire Mara as a mom, like, so much. But it it is, like, it's special, because it's like, it's almost like I get this extra, like, puzzle piece of my friend, and I'm sure it's kind of similar the other way around, like, when people put effort into being friends with your son.
Right, and to watch you interact with him is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like this is something that previous generations, this is kind of a new thing to navigate, because it always was just expected that, motherhood was never a question of, will I become a mother? It was very much expected. And so to be the first one of your friends to have a kid in your mid-20s, that too was like unheard of. You would be the spinster by that point. For maybe not like the one previous generation, but like, our grandparents.
Right.
But even our last previous generation, women were working, but also women were having kids still pretty early.
Young, yeah.
I mean, this is now, it's just every year it's like later and later that women are having kids, right? Or not at all. And that's totally fine. And I think a lot of women who shouldn't have kids are opting to not, and that is great, because not everybody should have kids, definitely.
Right.
But it also it's a weird shift of dynamics now, because it's not expected, and so you're just having to navigate all that, and friendships are different because it's not. Our grandma would never be like, I don't know how to handle this change with my friend getting pregnant. It's expected. Everybody's getting pregnant.
Everyone's going to, right? And it would have been way earlier too. I mean, it is kind of wild how much we've changed, like, as a society in what feels to me like such a short time, just 2 or 3 generations. But you're right. It was never an if all of my female friends were going to get pregnant. It was like just a win. Right. And if they didn't, usually that was like looked down upon or concerning, which is really unfortunate. Yeah. So I'm glad we're in a time where people can make their choice, but it is almost kind of sad that there is like a fear that accompanies it, you know, that But in the end, like, if you're listening to this and your friend's pregnant, or you're listening to this and you're pregnant, know that, like, I feel like it has just made my friendships more complex and stronger and better, even if it means we don't see each other as often, which for you and I has not been the case, but I'm sure is the case for some people.
Right, yeah.
And you can't always see everyone all the time. That it is a positive and it makes life better.
Exactly.
Well, Mar, thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast and talk about these very vulnerable subjects. I really think that this conversation is going to be helpful to a lot of people, and I'm just really glad that we had it.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you guys for listening, and we will see you in a couple weeks. Thanks. Bye.